I cannot bring myself to change that intro. I just can't.
Don't. Please don't.
I don't even want to like take it off there so I can do that without like, I like doing that every Thursday. So I don't even want to like record that and put it back up now. Greetings, everyone.
Hello.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, DJ, Ronnie G, Catman, DD Myers, Project Storytime, Snorticapoopas Cuber, my favorite polar bear on YouTube, Trinoculus P, Robert Pearson. Good evening. Oh, good evening, sir. How are you doing? Day Bob, my brother from another mother. Day Bob. Mark the Infinitely Tired is here. Good evening, Mark. Chris Persia. The Wrench of Wrenches is here. Good evening. Luis Sparrow. Good evening, Luis. Brightest day. Good evening. How are you doing? Good evening, everyone. Thank you so very much for being here. Thank you for hanging out with me and Adega. What is going on, Adega Outlaw?
You know what? I'm going to interrupt this program with the continuation of what we were talking about because I got Loki started. Um, we both are very fond of dragons.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody knows Loki is. I am, and I am very honored that his artist named a dragon after me. But I had posed a question with him, and I want to find out from you guys. I narrowed it down to two choices because we both agreed that if you were to pick between a Chinese dragon and a Japanese dragon, those of you who know, we like the Japanese dragon better than the Chinese versions of dragons. There's the Adega, the dragon. He just switched it. The other option is between Japanese and European. That's all their varieties, the body styles, claw styles, personalities. If you like the Japanese better, would you please put a 1 in chat? If you like the European dragons better, please put a 2. And I'll look at that in just a sec. But I just wanted to throw that out there because I'm very fascinated with people's opinions, and I'll give you my opinion in a minute. This has been a weird week, though. It's been a real weird week. I had some ideas of what I was going to do this week, and then when I started getting into it, things, a few twos, one, a 3, which Snoopy, you're fired. um, there were several different things that I was looking over, and the occurrences kept coming up over and over again. Of some people were using medications, some people were using other things to snort a poopus. You're better dressed than throwing that out. Have you ever seen his Twitter stuff? Best friend.
69, dude. Yes, I have seen Snort's Twitter stuff. Absolutely hilarious. I love it.
This comes from an archaeology standpoint. There are certain philosophies that the Egyptians, because they have some really weird in ancient Egyptian, some weird art, and some of it has to do with smoking lotus flowers, which those of you who know what that would do to you, it's quite a powerful hallucinogen. Oh, I was not going to push you on that at all, Robert. If something happens, just let me know, and I will make sure that it is worth your while. But let me just get started, and I'll tell you what I was thinking about as we go along. Everybody here, if you don't know, I'd be very shocked. But it was a guy who was born in 1503 by the name of Nostradamus. Later on in his life, he changed it to Nostradamus, Latinized it. He went to university when he was age 14 to learn to be a doctor. His grandfather had taught him astrology and various other things, Latin, Greek. Very, very educated at a very, very young age. Puts the rest of us to shame at how quickly he learned things. And then he went out and studied and battled with the plague, studying plants and how to overcome that. And it was around 1538 for the rest. I'm just going to read this. If you guys wanted to, I'm not going to read all of it, but if you guys wanted to go through it, you can go to the history, just the history channel, the page for Nostradamus. This actually isn't that bad. I very rarely use the history site for my information, but this one isn't bad. So this is Nostradamus and the Occult in 1538. An offhanded remark about a religious statue resulted in charges of heresy against Nostradamus. When ordered to appear before the Church Inquisition, he wisely chose to leave the province to travel for several years throughout Italy, Greece, and Turkey. During his travels to the ancient mystery schools, it is believed that Nostradamus experienced a psychic awakening. One of the legends Nostradamus says that during his travels in Italy, he came upon a group of Franciscan monks, identifying one as the future pope. The monk called Felice Perete, you guys who are Catholic will know how to pronounce it, I don't, was ordained Pope Sextus V in 1585, fulfilling the prediction of Nostradamus. Feeling he'd stayed away long enough to be safe from the Inquisition, Nostradamus returned to France to resume his practice of treating plague victims. In 1547, he settled down in his home in Salon and married a rich widow named Anne Ponsardier. Like I said, I can't pronounce French. A lot of languages I can't pronounce, so just please forgive me. Together they had 6 children, 3 boys, 3 girls. Nostradamus was also published 2 books on medicine science by this time. One was a translation of Galen, the Roman physician, and the second book, the Treatise de Ferdemens, was a medical cookbook for treating the plague and preparations of cosmetics. Within a few years of his settling in Ceylon, Nostradamus began moving away from medicine and more towards the occult. It is said that he would spend hours in his study at night meditating in front of a bowl filled with water and herbs. The meditation would bring on a trance and visions. It is believed that visions were the basis for his predictions for the future. In 1550, Nostradamus wrote his first almanac of the astrological information predictions of the coming year. Almanacs were very popular at the time, as it provided useful information for farmers, merchants, and contained entertaining bits of local folklore and predictions of the coming year. Nostradamus began writing about his visions and incorporating them into his first almanac. Anyway, the thing was, what I'm getting at is different ways of the word scrying is used. Nostradamus tends to be one of the most famous ones. But if I point out a couple other things, you'll go, oh, yeah. He used, and we'll get into a little bit more details, water, a bowl of water, had some herbs and everything. But if any of you hear of or see a crystal ball, it automatically projects you into thoughts of a group of people that were known for traveling fortune tellers or gypsies, but that's gone into witchcraft as well. And then there are also things like just sometimes clear rocks, certain stones that were used for scrying. And then there is also more recently, and it's a modern invention called a Ouija board. It was an offshoot of I can't remember the name of the device, Pompous, I think. It was basically a triangle with a pen stuck in it, and it works similar, but you had to write things out with it. The idea behind these is, and I'll tie it into something else in a few minutes if I remember, is that it allows the person who's doing it to quiet their mind by focusing on images or waves. Most people say that you have to have the room dim and lit by candlelight. For some reason, the dim light allows whoever's viewing to be able to gain better, more clear impressions from the water or the crystal or what have you. The idea is, and it's similar, this is where I wanted to tie it into, it's similar to the techniques used with, and I've mentioned this many, many times, with the Stargate program, remote viewing. That's the word. Sorry, my mind's a little slow tonight. That's why I was calling almanacs instead of almanacs. But there is, and some of you will know about this, the Akashian record, or what there is supposed to be in some beliefs. The universe is strictly knowledge. And to tap into that knowledge, you have to have yourself in a certain state of mind and remove your imagination and just listen to what the universe has to tell you. And these devices are supposed to be able to do that for the person who can quiet their mind enough. And then the remote viewers are very, very highly trained to where they need nothing, just an idea without the definition of the idea. Like when the military had done it, they're still, most people believe, doing it in most nations. I know Soviet Union, later Russia, I'm sure China had to, but the US has been heavy in it. And I think they still are. Even in the 40s and 50s, they had people that were using crystal balls for the government. And one of them predicted Kennedy assassination. But the main focus is to remove your conscious thought and allow that external impressions to enter into your thought processes. And without imagination, you are able to interpret them and see past, present, and future. Some people are good at it. If they weren't, we wouldn't have had the gypsies traveling around as successful as they were. Granted, charlatans abound, just like every profession. There's always more fakes than there are the real deal. And I was telling Loki earlier on, because there was part of this that I was getting into, that it started to freak me out. So I was not able to complete what I wanted to present tonight, but I will get into it. It had to deal with, and it tied in with the Ouija board. I got into the history of that, and it's an American invention back in the 1850s. There were a pair of sisters that they thought they were listening to ghosts in their house of a guy who had killed himself. And the parents moved the two sisters out to another place, and it continued. So the sisters figured out what they were doing as they were listening to ghosts, and they started having seance type things where in order to interpret what the ghosts were saying, they would have yes, no by the table banging around or things moving. You know, the stuff that you hear of all these fakes. Someone came up with a bright idea that they were going to make this invention where it had the pencil on it or pen, and it would draw out. And the difficulty was that pen stayed in place, and to read the words on it was hard because sometimes it was a jumbled mess. Which later came the Ouija, with the alphabet put in 2 rows, the yes or no and the goodbye on there. This is where things started to freak me out, because I have had a history of sorts. I've never used one. I've known good people that have, and I'm sure all of you have heard of bad experiences. Crystal balls, you don't hear that because usually people who have those have invested a lot of time and effort into making sure that they know what they're doing with it. Whether they're accurate or not is a different thing. But putting yourself in a mindset where you're going to listen to spirits talk to you, those of you who are spiritualists or religious would know that there are both good and evil spirits and indifferent ones. But when you're inviting things in, you never know what you're going to get. Hence, either the bad stories are from people that are freaking themselves out, like saying Bloody Mary 3 times in a mirror, or something actually does happen. And there's documented cases of all three of those. Most of the time, it's just people freaking themselves out, though. But my experiences it started off young, where there was some friends that their parents are really good at it. They had all kinds of fun doing it. They would invite me over, and every time I came over, it wouldn't work. I was never been able to have a Ouija or a crystal or any of those things work when I was there. Little personal note. Some personal things I'll probably be throwing out more and more, but those things just don't work around me for some odd reason, and it would frustrate the people that were trying to show off or do things to impress. It's still the case, though remote viewing is another thing, and I have had a lot of success with that. But I think the point is, like I said, it was incomplete where I wanted to go. But just as a warning, because I often do talk about, without saying what my spiritual background is and the different things that I've studied, because I've studied just about every major religion that you know of and a lot of different mysticisms. But the information, the spiritual existence of things in the universe is not in dispute. Anyone who wants to dispute it is somebody who has not had enough life experiences, read enough to be able to come to a conclusion, or they just want to be ignorant because these things are real. But just like everything, every society will have some type of version of a yin and a yang, a positive and negative, a good and a bad. Be careful what you do. Like I said, when I started getting into parts of this study that I was going to bring up, there were some freaky things that started to happen. So I shut it down, and I figured I would just stick with this. Be wary, because when you open the door, you never know what's going to come in. And that's what I had. And I want to now get back and look at the chat and see how many twos we got. Zeros, you goofballs.
Opening that door, is it a door you want to open?
I know for things like with remote viewing, where the whole premise behind it isn't seeking anything, it's just listening. And if it's done right, you're listening to an important target, trying to visualize it, listen to it, read anything. It's supposed to be something real. That I have never heard of any bad experiences, because you're just seeing truth. When it comes to crystal, when it comes to Ouija, water divination, I have heard stuff that will freak you out quite a bit. Because, like you said, do you want to open the door? Well, there's a lot of ignorant people that think it's fun at party games. The whole reason why Ouija became so popular is because of the sensibilities at the time in the 1850s. Was men and women really didn't used to do dating like they do now. Early on, they wouldn't be alone together. They wouldn't hold hands. It was just, there was a lot of decorum. But the Ouija, the way it was taught was you had to have your fingers touching, and you had to have your knees touching, and you had to face each other. And that became a hot date item back in the day, and it took off. But now the premise is we're looking for spirits. We're not looking for information. We're looking for spirits to guide you. Well, yeah. You want to open that door? Who are you going to get to come in? Like I said, I don't care what you believe in, what you don't believe in, but there are certain things that really do exist. And the more your life experience gets with you, the more you read, the more these ancient philosophers, different religions, almost every single religion will tell you there is a good and a bad, a right and a wrong, a good side of things, a bad side of things. And opening the door is, do you have control to stop what you don't want? Sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh no, it's fine. You were talking about old style dating. Did you ever go on a date where you had to go basically with the entire family?
No.
Chaperone?
Nope.
Oh yeah, the whole family comes out chaperone. That's something. That's something. 16 years old, the whole family's there. Oh, hello. It's so nice to meet you.
No. I don't know how I was able to get it. I dated a lot. I told you before, when I found my wife, I was dating 4 other women at the same time. But even as a teenager, it was, I think, twice I went as a group with other friends. But other than that, no, it wasn't. Hey, Dal's here. It's been a while. Hello, Dal.
Hey, Dal Cecil Runo. Good evening. Hello. So good to see you, Dal.
All right,
Hope
so
you were
that
doing
is
well.
me for the evening.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us, brother. Tonight, I'm going to be continuing a story that I started last week called Pane, P-A-N-E, like window pane. And last we saw Arthur, not Arthur. Arthur is the British guy. Last we saw our, hold on 1 second. Our guy that this story is about, he was calling 911 on his phone after a British man named Arthur showed up and killed a guy that was trying to kill him. So we will start in part 2. The long driveway now had several police vehicles parked in it, including a forensics van, as a dozen or so officers scoured my house, taking pictures of everything. I was on the porch with the detective that appeared to be in charge, Detective Brownfield. I told her the story that Arthur had suggested. I wasn't sure why, but I somehow felt like he was being honest about that. I mean, the man had saved my life. So you just happened to have a suppressed pistol lying around the house? She asked me, sounding somewhat suspicious. I couldn't help but feel like I was being interrogated. Yes, ma'am, I told her, trying to mask my irritation. As I said, I inherited this house. I've only lived here for a month or so. She just stared at me, as if I was speaking Egyptian or something. She turned towards one of the other officers. Sergeant Jones, what's the status on the suppressor? I checked with our BAFTA guy. It checks out. The registration of that serial number is under Jonathan Barclay. Yeah, that's my grandpa, I told him. I don't know who was more surprised by this, the detective or myself. Well, we're going to have to take it as evidence. If you want it back, you'll have to register under your own name. Understood? The lady told me with a sigh. Understood, ma'am. The forensics officer walked up, nervously tapping the grumpy detective on her shoulder. Detective Brownfield? What is it, Hernandez? The detective asked her, sounding as irritated as I was. There's just something weird about the body. You see, we can't get the mask off. What do you mean you can't get the mask off? It's not removable. We think it was attached surgically. It seems to be somehow fused with his skull. Good God, Detective Brownfield said, putting her hand to her head and taking a deep, exasperated breath. Bag the body and take him in. We'll have a medical examiner figure it out in the morning. The detective turned back to me. You know, this is some of the weirdest shit I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot of weird shit, she told me, as if any of this was my fault. Are you sure there's nothing else you want to tell us? No. Did your grandfather have any enemies? Anyone who would want to hurt him? Fuck if I know. I barely knew the guy. I told her. I didn't mention that he was apparently a part of some weird secret organization. All right, well, here's my card. We'll be in touch, Daniel. Have your people lock the door on the way out, I told her before walking in the house and heading upstairs to my bedroom. My cognac still sat on the bed waiting for me. After I called 911, I hid the box, seeing as there were illegal drugs in there. After the police left, I just flushed it. But for now, I sat there, sipping at my cognac. Arthur was right. This really was some good shit. And as I drank, I stared at the wall, trying to wrap my mind around what the fuck had just happened. I'll admit that although the situation was terrifying, the adrenaline rush left me kind of high on life. My life in the last several years of adulthood had been mundane, boring, and even depressing. Waiting tables for snobby customers just so I could get some cash to pay rent and eat. Tonight reminded me of my youth. Stealing shit, running from the cops, street fights, working everything under the table. They were terrible times, but at the same time, those were the good old days. Growing up sucks ass. I had far more questions than answers, but there was one question eating at me more than anything. What was pain? What sort of secret life had Grandpa been living? My mind wandered and drifted as I fell asleep. I woke up late the following morning to find my precious cognac completely gone and replaced with a headache. As I went down to the kitchen to go get a glass of water, I saw a black car with dark tinted windows parked across the street. I couldn't help but wonder if someone was watching me. This continued for the next 2 days. I'd see blacked out cars everywhere, camped outside my house, the grocery store, even gas stations. I was certain that I was being followed. I hadn't even heard from the detective. It was time to give Officer Grumpy Ass a call. Starting to get paranoid when she didn't answer. I called back several times that day, leaving voicemails, but she never called back. Finally, I had it. I got my beat-up car, drove to the police station. "Can I help you?" asked the lady at the front desk. "Yeah, I need to speak with Detective Brownfield right away." "And what is this regarding?" "The guy that attacked me in my house and got shot to death." "Oh, that. She started, taken back by my straightforward statement. "Follow me, please." She guided me to the back of the old building, passing by cubicles of bored-looking officers with stacks of paperwork and mugs of shitty coffee on their desks. She knocked on the door before opening the office, revealing a white bricked room with a single fluorescent bulb. "What the hell do you want, Julie?" asked the detective without looking up from the open file on her desk. "Mr. Barclay is here to see you." Detective Brownfield finally looked up. "God damn it, have a seat," she said with a heavy sigh. "Thanks for the warm welcome," I told her. She glared at me and rolled her eyes. "Have you found anything out?" I asked. They didn't tell you?" She asked. "Tell me what?" "Jesus Christ," she said, rubbing her head. "Listen, here's the deal," she said in a hushed voice. "I have no idea what the hell is going on here. The FBI showed up the next morning and they took everything. Files, my notes, the body, everything. They made everybody sign NDAs. I don't know what weird shit you've gotten yourself into, buddy, but it's out of my hands. Officer, there are people following me. I'm scared to death. Everywhere I look, I see tinted out windows on cars." Paranoia isn't uncommon after a traumatic event. I'm not fucking paranoid. There's been blacked out SUVs parked outside my house since you left that night. Somebody's watching me. "Well, go talk with Officer Jenkins. He can have a patrol car in your neighborhood tonight, but I'm sorry. This is in the FBI's hands now." "Yeah, thanks for fucking nothing," I told her as I stood up and walked out of the office. This was getting too fucking weird. I needed to talk to Arthur and get some damn answers. What was it he said about contacting him? I'd find it in the study. Why was he so fucking vague? As I was driving home, I realized that I had not one, but two black SUVs tailing me. As I stepped on the gas, so did they. I drove like a maniac, cutting through busy intersections, passing law-abiding cars and traffic. The black cars chased me the whole way home. As I pulled into the driveway, the SUVs followed me. I didn't have time for the garage to open, so I parked the car in front of the main entrance where two more metal masked men were already waiting. Masked men were approaching my car from the front. They were wearing the same metal masks as in the invader from the other night and carrying what appeared to be weird-looking assault rifles. I waited for them to get about 15 feet in front of me, then I stomped on the damn gas pedal. One of them was quick enough to jump. The other, oh, that son of a bitch, he wasn't so lucky. I felt the front of my car jump up as I heard the sickening crack of bones under my front left tire. That sound. You will never forget that sound. The other guy was on my hood now, trying to hold on for dear life. After the back tire cleared the first assailant, I slammed on my brakes, sending the second flying off, hitting the stone wall of the house behind him. I slammed on my gas pedal one more time as he tried to stagger out of the way. Too late, I slammed in the wall, pinning the man's head between the bumper and the wall. Whew. I got out of my car to see the mess I'd made. The man's mask had cracked right down the middle. Blood leaked out of his face through the crack as if he were some sort of water feature. I grabbed the gun to see a handful more masked men approaching me from the SUVs. I didn't have time to count, but I'd guess that there were somewhere around 10 of these fucking assholes trying to jump me. I grabbed the gun that now squashed assailant had been holding, turned and fired at the closest two. Only the gun didn't shoot bullets. It was shooting darts. These guys weren't trying to kill me. They were trying to kidnap me. Fuckers were using tranquilizer darts. One of the darts I fired had hit a masked man in the neck. As he staggered backward, trying to rip the dart out of his neck. I wasn't going to stick around to see how well the tranq worked. The front door wasn't going to be a viable option since it was in the open, so I ducked behind the shrubbery and ran toward the corner of the house as darts flew through the shrubs, smacking into the stone wall ahead. I turned the corner and ran as fast as I could toward the back of the house. As I got to the back door, I fumbled with the keys trying to get the door unlocked just as one of the masked men appeared around the corner. I ducked inside the door. A dart struck into the inside of the wooden door, nearly missing my head. I could see a fluid trickling out from where the dart had struck. I locked the door, heard the loud crash of a broken window from the front of the house. Fuck! I swore. As I peered around the corner to see a masked man making his way through the large 12 by tall window. Only the bottom half was broken, so I shot darts at the top of the window. A large piece of thick glass, probably 5 inches tall, 4 inches wide, fell directly into his neck. I watched, horrified, as his head hit the hardwood floor, mass first, with a loud thud. His body, from the neck down, fell backwards out of the window, spraying a fountain of blood multiple feet upwards. The next man started climbing through the window, not even caring that his teammate had just been decapitated. That's when I realized there was something seriously fucked up with these people. I heard another crash behind me from a back window. They were about to have me surrounded. The study. I needed to get to the study. Where the hell was Arthur this time around? I turned and ran down the hall as masked intruders entered my home from the broken windows. The end of the hallway was a large wooden door, rounded at the top, medieval style. That was the study. I ran in, shutting the door behind me and hoping they didn't see me. The study was huge, larger than most people's master suites. The walls were lined with mahogany bookshelves filled with books that I hadn't even bothered to read the titles of. In the middle of the room sat a decorative mahogany desk with 2 large decorative chairs and a fancy sofa in front. I grabbed the sofa and pushed it across the wood floors, blocking the door. I wedged the chairs underneath it to stop it from sliding. The good news was the sofa would serve as a good barricade and buy me a little bit of time. The bad news was that I was essentially trapped in here. There was no way out, not even a window. I need to find out what the hell Arthur meant. I'd find the way to contact him in the study. That's what he said. I started searching the room, starting with the desk where a plain black office phone sat. There was nothing written on the phone, so I pushed the directory button. It was empty, as was the recent call list. Starting to panic, I opened the drawers, scrambling through them, trying to find anything useful. In the top right drawer, I found a thin magazine titled Panel of Agricultural Nanotechnology Excellence, Edition 2, 161. That seemed odd to me. How could there be two 161 editions of an agricultural nanotechnology magazine, the single most boring subject anyone could have ever created? It was worth a try. I picked up the phone and dialed 2616 into the keypad. The phone did nothing, but I heard a click to my right. I spun around to find one of the bookshelves had swung open, like a door. Bam! The sound had come from the study door. They had found me. Bam! This time the large sofa moved back a couple inches. I ran to where the secret bookshelf door had just opened, revealing a large metal vaulted door. Bam! How the fuck do I get in here? I muttered to myself, looking around the door. Green laser shot out of a small black dot in the door, hitting me right in the eye. Closed my eyes and jolted backward from the shock. Bam! This time, I heard the frame crack. Identity confirmed. Welcome, Master Daniel Barclay. Slightly seductive, digital female voice said. I heard the sound of sliding metal, and with a clunk, the thick vaulted door swung inward. I ran through the door, shutting the shelf and the vault door behind me. As the vault locked itself with a series of metal clicks, I heard the door break open. They were in the study. I let out a sigh of relief as I turned around. The lights turned on automatically, revealing an open vault room with metal walls and a metal ceiling. The perimeter had several heavy-duty black shelves and drawers. In the middle of the room was a large concrete deck with nothing but two flat-screen computer monitors, a typewriter, and another black office phone. I walked over to the phone. Each number on the phone was labeled for speed dial. Under button 2 was the name Arthur. I tapped the button and then hit call. It only took one ringtone for Arthur to pick up. Ah, Mr. Barclay, I see you found the vault. Have you reconsidered my offer yet? Arthur, they're back. They followed me and attacked me at my fucking house. I need your help. Unfortunately, sir, we're unable to intervene. You made it very clear that we are unwelcome on your property. Jesus fucking Christ, Arthur, I need your help. They're destroying the house as we speak. If they find me, they're going to either kidnap me or kill me. I have a team on standby ready to help, but first I need to know if you're in or you're out, the British man said through the phone. I don't fucking know. Can't we talk about this later? I practically yelled into the phone. I could hear all kinds of banging from the other side of the door. They were ripping apart the entire study. Listen, Daniel, I know you better than you think. I know that you're tired of your boring Monday life of mediocrity. I need to know right now, do you want to spend your life working at restaurants, living paycheck to paycheck, or are you going to choose a life of something greater? A life that will bring you excitement and satisfaction. You were born for greatness, old boy. I know it, and you know it. Make your choice, Daniel. Holy shit, it was like Arthur had read my mind. Although his statement was shocking, it was 100% true. He was right. I was sick of living this mediocre paycheck-to-paycheck life. Right then and there, I made the single most reckless and impulsive decision I'd ever made. You're right, I said after a slight pause. I'm in. It's a pleasure to hear that, old boy. I'll call you when it's safe. Welcome aboard, Mr. Barclay. And with that, Arthur hung up the phone. Less than 60 seconds later, I heard the fighting start. the muffled cracks of suppressed weapons, as well as yells, screams, cursing. It could all be heard, even through the heavy metal door. As I was waiting for the call, I decided to have a look around the vault. It was my property after all. As I walked over to the back wall, it came to life. The black metal panels slid open, revealing a dozen rifles. From the bottom, 2 drawers popped open with various pistols and suppressors. Jesus Christ. Grandpa really was living one hell of a secret life. I suddenly got very nervous and excited, all at the same time. What in the hell did I just sign up for? I quickly recognized some of the weapons. There were a couple of M4s, a Chris Vector, and a few different Glock models. At the top was a Beretta 50 caliber sniper rifle. However, there were a lot of weapons that I didn't recognize. They looked futuristic and high-tech. I reached out to touch a rifle that, instead of a barrel, had 4 golden rods spiraling around an 18-inch glass tube. I almost jumped out of my shoes when the phone went off. My heart thumping again. I walked over and I answered the phone. Arthur? I asked. Yes, sir. It's safe for you to come out now. Simply dial 060695 on the keypad. See you in a bit, Arthur told me before hanging up. 060695. My birthday. That was weird. As I opened up the bookshelf door, I saw just how bad the battle had wrecked my house. The mahogany desk was on its side. Books and bookcases were strewn everywhere around the room. 3 bodies of those metal masked men lay in bloody heaps. As I walked down the hallway, I found the walls ridden with bullets and bodies. Men wearing gray, SWAT-style uniforms with strange body armor were already bagging the bodies and stacking them by the back door. Arthur stood by the front window, eyeing the decapitated head. I have to say, I admire your handiwork, Mr. Barclay. Great improvisation. You'll prove to be a valuable asset yet. Sure you're going to tell me what the fuck is going on? Of course. Just sign this paper, he said, handing me a metal clipboard. But I should warn you, now that you're in, you cannot get out. I signed the paper with only a slight skim of a read, something about not telling secrets. Excellent. Follow me then, good sir. He led me back into the study and into the vault, shutting the door behind me. He sat down on the desk, gestured for me to sit on the office chair. Now I'm sure you have a lot of questions now that you're in. I have the liberty of telling you anything. What would you like to know? Well, that should be obvious, I told him. Tell me, Arthur, what is pain? And that is part 2 of Pain.
Hooked. I really like that author.
Oh, yeah, R.M. Staniforth, by our legendary R.M. Staniforth. Thank you so much, R.M. Staniforth, for the stories. I've gone completely off. I was reading Norse tales of mythology, and now I'm back to reading horror and adventure, and yeah. So, from the writer who wrote Journal of a Psychopath.
Yes.
And thank you guys. Thank you, Dal. Thank you, Lady Mist. Thank you, Dave Bob. Thank you guys so very much. And there is a super chat here from Trinoculus P for $5. We almost never get super chats on Thursdays. Says, thanks for the stream. Thank you so very much, Trinoculus P. Thank you for me and Adega. Thank you, brother. And let's see. Well, since we were talking about dragons earlier, we might as well burn it down with dragon fire.
Burn it down.
Skull! Thank you all for being here. Thank you for hanging out with me and Adega Outlaw tonight on 7 Kinds of Mischief. We will be back next week. I have no idea what Adega is going to do, but we're going to do part 3 of Pain.
We shall see.
We
Thanks
shall see.
And I saw Parrot Head came in late. Lady Miss came in late. Hello. And good evening.
Thank you so much, everybody, for being here and hanging out with me and Adega. You guys are the best. I couldn't ask for a better chat, better audience, better friends, better fellowship than this. Thank you guys so very much.
Yeah. It's nice to have these evenings when the ranting and the raving and the fandom is put aside and we can go more intellectual for an hour.
Damn straight. Guys, catch us tomorrow morning. Me and Dave Bob talk about the week in review. We're gonna have a ton of topics to talk about tomorrow. Probably even touch on Honk Honk and Lord of the Rings again. Some real world topics tomorrow, not just entertainment news. Until then, take care. Be excellent to each other. Always speak friend to enter. And me and Adega will see you next week for more 7 Kinds of Mischief. Good night, everybody.
Very good evening.
These videos are tremendous. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hammer that notification bell.
Maybe, maybe not.